All yours, Piper.
Thanks so much, Eric and friends here. Wow, honored and grateful to be here with you guys on Zoom tonight. My name's Piper. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My sobriety date is October 7th, 2009, but I will tell you the truth that it wasn't until 2020 when I met this group on Zoom called BYOC, Bring Your Own Coffee, that I was taken through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, all 12 steps in less than 2 weeks to get rocketed, right? To get recovered, to have this spiritual experience that has allowed me to establish a relationship with the God of my understanding. And as I continue to seek him, right, and stay close to him and hope to perform his works well, I get to live happy, joyous, and free, even when life isn't, it gets lifey, right? Stuff happens. And, I think, first of all, I just want to say, I love the way you opened up this meeting. Wow, was that fun? That was like so fun. And that's attractive to me, guys. Like, you make AA fun. And what does it say? For fun and for free. So, did I ever think I'd be like at an AA meeting on a computer on a Sunday night or a Friday night or 6 a.m. East Coast time, and during the week every day saying yes, 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 no, 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 not before I got rocketed. And one thing that I like to do that actually Terry suggested and taught me on one of the many big book studies that we got to do together is it comes out of chapter We Agnostics, and it's called the lay aside prayer. So I like to invite God into the space, just because I like to say thank you. So before we start, I'm just going to say it. God, please lay aside everything I think I know about this disease, these steps, this book, this program, myself, and especially you, dear God, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with this disease, these steps, this program, this book, myself, and especially you, dear God. Amen. I can't live on yesterday's sobriety. I've learned that, right? I tried an easier, softer way. The first decade in the rooms, first of all, I fell in love with the people in AA because I felt like I was at home. I walked in the meeting. I had no intention of going into AA. I had no idea I was an alcoholic. I just knew how I rolled, and I think I was a professional, right? My history, just to qualify myself, was my first drink was at the age of 5. My parents went to a football game. My great grandmother was babysitting me. And this is back in the 60s, guys. So I'm kind of dating myself. But anybody remember that bottle of wine? It looked like a genie bottle. It was Lancer's wine and had like a wicker around it. And when you empty the bottle, you put a candle, a colorful candle, you light it and let the drips come down. Well, that's like how my parents rolled, right? They're kind of hippies. And I just remember that there was an unopened bottle of Lancers. I'm 5 years old. I go into the fridge and I tell myself a rational lie, right? I rationalize why it's okay for me to open up that bottle because it's grape juice. Oh, I'm allowed to have grape juice, right? I'm talking to myself in my head. I open the bottle, I take a sip, and what does 5-year-old Piper do? I chug the whole freaking bottle, guys. I'm 5. I chugged the whole bottle. Yeah, for real. Like, who does that? So I think I'm qualified right there. I get called upstairs to have lunch, and I kind of stumble up. I got lit, and I'm stumbling up the stairs to the kitchen, and they've got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the table. I take a bite, and boy, I have to run to the bathroom, and I painted the walls purple. And that's all I have to say, right? That's what happened to me. I couldn't get back to the table, so they sat me in like one of those chairs that was like low and it was on wheels. And I remember sitting in front of the TV and I had the spins. I'm 5, guys. I have the spins. And all I can say is my drinking career probably started when I was 15-ish. And that's just how I drank. That's how I always drank. Off to the races, no off switch. I put something in my system, the allergy clicks in, and I want another drink, and I never hung out with anyone who was just going to have one or two. Because you guys, like, you're boring. You don't know how to live. So I partied with the best. And, you know, my father and my grandfather and my grandmother, I will just say, are alcoholics, but they were surgeons and doctors. And it looked like they had respectful careers and all of that stuff. But, you know, part of the whole social existence that I thought was, you know, you just drink like that. You do everything to the best of your ability. And so I was going to be the best drinker as well as whatever else I was engaged in. And, you know, I think my God and my own understanding at that time were the men in my life. My grandfather, you know, my father, and, you know, my dad was a surgeon, but he also owned a bar and a health club. So if that gives you any idea, right? Got to balance it all out. So I learned how to work out really hard so I could drink and burn off the calories. And as long as I paid my car insurance and, you know, had a job, and got on the honor roll, then life was good. So basically that's sort of how I was raised. And fast forward, I did that in high school, and then I did make it to college, but the college that I wanted to go to was on the East Coast, and I'm originally from Kansas City. I'm from the Midwest. And my dad looked at me and he's like, you know, Piper, that's great. You got into those fancy schools over there, but you can go to MU or KU. I'm not spending money for you to go party. He's like, if you get your undergraduate degree, I'll pay for you to get your master's. So basically what happened, fast forward, I get my undergraduate degree and then I get my MRS degree, right? I got married because I wanted to move to New York, and I wanted to, right? If anybody can make it anywhere, if you make it in New York, you make it anywhere. So my best girlfriend and I, who was also my drinking buddy, we drove cross country with the U-Haul and in the GMC Jimmy truck to New York City. And here we go. It's over. I'm getting a job. I'm paying my bills. But when I go out at night, all bets are off. I have no off switch. I'm at the after parties. I'm at the breakfast. And then it starts that I can't show up for work because I'm just going nonstop. And I basically drank that way into my 20s. But then this is the kicker. I get, well, I'm married. I want to have a clean body. I do not want my kids to get stuck with this disease. Something in the back of my mind said, you want to have a clean body, Pipe. So I was able to stop for both pregnancies for a whole year. And what does the big book tell us, right? To go out and try some controlled drinking if you're not sure if you're a real alcoholic. And the second test, see if you can stop for anything like a year. Well, I could. So when I first found you guys in 2020 and started going through the big book, I literally actually was questioning whether or not I was a real alcoholic, because I felt like I had gone into AA for 10 years and said, hey, I'm Piper, I'm an alcoholic. But I actually didn't know what an alcoholic was. I didn't understand that the disease centered in my body as well as my mind. I just knew I felt at home, and I raised my hand because that's what everybody else was saying. And I felt like, okay, well, me too. But I never took the time to actually understand what it meant until I got into the big book. So then, but if you read, and if you got 5 minutes with a sponsee alcoholic, we get to diagnose ourselves. So I was taught to take them to pages 20 and 21 in the big book, where you have 3 different types of drinker: the moderate drinker, the hard drinker, and then the real alcoholic, right? And it says, for the hard drinker, if a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may even need medical attention. So I could stop, right, during the pregnancies. However, when I read the next paragraph, that was when it was a game changer. It says, but what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, whoa, who had a drinking career? Who was willing to go to any lengths to get your drink or your drug on, right? Me too, always. That was it. It wasn't really about the job. It wasn't about the grades. It was like, how can I party? How can I party harder? And how can I find more fun people to have a better time partying with and just roll that way? Right? Like that was just it. It said, but at some stage of his drinking career, here we go, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. So after I finished nursing my babies and the doctor said, okay, it's fine, you know, if you want to have a glass of wine or whatever, I pick up a glass of wine and it's a bottle, right? It's a bottle. And then for me, the way I roll, oh, it's Sunday morning. Let's have mimosas. We're going to party it through. Oh, no, but I'm in a Bloody Mary mood. And then, oh, you know, well, we got to have a little espresso con sambuca at lunch, and then another bottle of wine when it's dinner time and I'm making dinner. And then, oh my gosh, of course we gotta open the tequila, right? So all I'm saying is that's just that, you know, me on my own power, I'm going to drink no matter what. And so when Terry and the group at BYOC, who took me through this big book intensely, showed me that from the title page through page 22 is all about the disease in the body, right? That allergy, the phenomenon of a craving kicks in. I don't have an off switch. Okay, I know I'm qualified for that. But what about what happened for me 10 years in sobriety without a drink, without being emotionally sober, without getting recovered? That was it, right? So pages 23 to 43 talk all about the disease and how it centers in our mind. And if I have the mind of an alcoholic and I'm not connecting to a higher power greater than myself, right? If I don't have a relationship with a God of my own understanding, me on my own power, I'm going to drink no matter what. It calmed that crazy mind that is talking to myself. Like anybody here have relationships with people, places, and things all in your head. Somebody walks in the door, you go spouting out at them, and they have no idea where you're coming from. And we expect them to be mind readers, right? We expect them to know that they were supposed to come in and they should have picked this up and that, and they should have done this. And we want to manage and control everybody in our lives. And what do we end up doing? Pissing everybody off, and nobody wants to hang out with us because we're always telling people what to do. I mean, that's my experience. I'm just sharing my experience, but that's how I understand my alcoholism makes me play out. And you guys read that earlier, right? You said, what are we like? We're like the actor, right? We want to run the whole show, but we end up wanting to play the director, and we want to direct and act and tell everybody else their part. That does not make for easy going of life, does it? No, it doesn't. And, you know, on page 23, it says, well, I'm going to go to the bottom of 22. It says, we are equally positive that once he takes any alcohol, whatever, into his system, something happens, both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. Anybody identify with that? Yeah. Yeah, me too. It says the experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm. And then top of 23, it says these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. So what do I need to do? I need to have a barrier between me and that first drink. So why want to take people through the steps, right? So they don't have to suffer repeated humiliations. Who here has suffered incomprehensible and repeated humiliations, right? Been, you know, just had blackouts, ended up like somewhere that you never planned to be with people you don't even know how you met or got there, and caused harm to people you loved. I was doing that sober without the drink, but not recovered. And it got me to the point of the desperation of a drowning woman. I really wanted to commit suicide. So I'm going to fast forward, you guys. When was it? November 22nd of this year. by the grace of God, I celebrated my 60th belly button birthday. But I will promise you guys that in sobriety, when I was coming up on my 11th anniversary, or before that even, I had in my mind, right, this foolish idea that if I got my kids graduated and they were out on their own, living outside of the house, I could just kill myself because they wouldn't need me anymore. I did not believe that I was going to live past 50. But God had other plans, right? Because I'm here. And he grabbed me, and BYOC grabbed me, and they had a message of depth and weight that attracted me to the point that I was willing to go to any lengths to get over drinking and drugging for good and forever by doing these 12 steps. And Terry, I just love him so much. You know, he's my brother. He's one of the people that helped save my life. And many of you guys are here. We've done these big book studies together. But I love how he would use this saying that the 12 steps are the treasure map to get to have a relationship with God. I could digest that. You know, I could believe that. I could believe that. And hearing his testimonial, his story over and over again with all kinds of depth and weight, I was like, this guy's not BSing me. Like, he's telling the truth. He's a miracle. And so many of you that I've gotten to meet over this 4-year, 5-year period, and I've heard your stories too. It's like, yeah, we are brothers and sisters, guys. We have been saved, right? Saved from the gates of death or insanity. And we get to continue to show up for each other and encourage each other. And, you know, what does the big book tell us? It's our purpose is to stay close to him, capital H-I-M, God, so we can perform his works well. And doing the 12 steps and having a big book in my hand, and once we've recovered, it's like, all we have to do is open up the book and go read with someone else who wants it. But we don't have to chase anyone, because guess what? Never rob an alcoholic of their bottom, ever. Right? That's that frothy emotional appeal, Eric, right? You said we're not doing a frothy emotional appeal here. I'm not begging anybody, but I will tell you, the big book begs us to lay aside prejudice. And this is something else T-Man taught me, man. Oh, Terry, I just love you so much. And I'll just give you a snapshot of what today looked like for me. I got up early to go to church. Like, what? Are you kidding? To go sing in the choir, right? To serve, to help others. And that was like, it's a Sunday morning. I like to sleep in. I want to like pull the covers. It's getting cold out. I don't want to get up and go somewhere and help others. But God did that for me, right? He has completely changed my whole deportment. And I get to learn how to be a demonstration of his patience, his love, his courage, his kindliness. You know, those spiritual traits, those column 5 words, those fruits of the spirit, if you will, that when I'm plugged into his power, his capital P power, that's going to help me solve all my problems, right? I don't have to worry about a thing. What I need to do is get on my knees and pray and give it over to him, and get out of my stinking thinking, get out of my head and go help somebody else. So getting back, and I know I'm a little ADD, and here is another Terryism. Anybody suffer from alcoholic defiance disorder? Talk to the hand. Yeah, right? I don't want anyone telling me what to, yeah, wah, 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 wah. That too, right? I love it. I can't afford to be selfish and self-centered anymore. Like the big book tells me, that's it. Page 62. That's the root of my problems. All I ever used to do was think about I, me, and myself, right? I, me, my. So when we go through the book and we're reading the stories, we learn about Jim, we learn about Fred, we learn about the jaywalker. If you substitute alcoholism for jaywalking, it's like we're the same. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over. We have lost control in the choice, or we have no power, and we're going to pick up a drink or a drug when I'm running on self-will because I'm self-will run riot. So what do I have to do? I have to clear away the wreckage. I gotta, what do they say? Do a thorough house cleaning, right? For my step 4, so that my heart is open. My mind is open to receiving. And that's again why before every big book session we do, guys. And by the way, if anyone wants to join Monday at 4 p.m., I'll put a plug in for BYOC. We're taking some people, some friends through the steps, and we're going to be reading the second half of We Agnostics, Monday, 4 p.m. BYOC. But what we have to do is we have to open our hearts and our minds, right, to let God in, to be able to continue, seeking the path where we can trudge the road to happy destiny together. But if I'm like blocked off with resentments, with anger, with fear, and I'm holding on to it, I'm like this pressure cooker, like boiling over, and I have no idea. I'm like racing. I think my RPMs were over 200 beats per minute, right? When I was like in my disease, my mind was so loud. I couldn't hear anyone else because my mind was just like telling me lies. I'm not good enough. I hate myself. I might as well just kill myself. Oh, you're useless, Piper. And then in the other breath, on the other side, right? It's like, but I work so hard. I'm such a good mom. I love my kids. But I felt useless. And then they get me back into this book. And now what do I get to look at? Those bedevilments on page 52. We get to ask ourselves, right? It says we had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems. Anybody here have some problems? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The same readiness to change. Who is ready to change? Who's ready to get rocketed? Right? Because I have to change my attitude and my outlook toward life, because me and my disease, I only see the problems. I see how stupid everybody is. You're all idiots. You're not doing it my way. Get out of here. And I was an escape artist, right? Grab the car keys, out of here. Grab the car keys, out of here. Like and then it was like, all bets are off. I was definitely headed toward a dangerous place. And it was really only by the grace of God, I think. And I'll be quite honest with you guys. I lost several people to this disease, but in my bloodline, when I was 15, I kind of rescued my grandmother, my father's mother, who actually had been a doctor. She spoke 8 languages. She was born in the Philippines. She graduated from medical school in Berlin, Germany. Like, this woman went to Stanford, was practiced in San Francisco. Brilliant mind, right? Alcoholic. Never got help. And at the end of her years, she was getting physically hurt by a family member, and as a teenager, I helped her break out and come move in with Dad and his new wife. And I guess basically, when I got home from school one day, she's at the bottom of the stairs, passed out with a bottle on the carpet, right? So that was my first sign of what alcoholism looks like for me as a grown, like at least a teenager. I still didn't maybe say that word out loud, didn't really understand what it was. All I knew was that I never saw her again. And that was terrifying. And I loved her so much. Fast forward, my dad, and again, this is confidential, guys, but all I can say is by the end of my dad's drinking career, the first time he was asked if he wanted to keep his medical license or go to rehab. And they sent him to like the best rehab in the country. And then I don't know, he checked himself out one day shy of the legally required like time frame, right? And so he didn't make it then. But then fast forward, after I put the drink down, and after he was tired of taunting me, and I'd call him, he'd want to talk to me, see how I'm doing. It's like, but wait, hold on, Pipe, let me pour my vodka. And it was like he was poking fun at me, right? Poking fun at me because it disturbed him, right? When somebody that we love starts to get sober, if we're not there yet, do we get disturbed by them like getting recovered? Yeah, because it makes us kind of look at ourselves. Anyway, what I can say about that is fast forward, he got to a point where he asked for help. And I'll tell you what, this is all divine intervention. I can't make this stuff up, but I'm driving back from Madison, Wisconsin. I just dropped my oldest child off to her freshman year at college. I'm traveling across, I think it's I-80, and I get a phone call, and my father says, Piper, I need help. I've never been so depressed in my life. I want to kill myself. I think I'm an alcoholic. Can you help me? And I'm like, Dad, this is good news. This is really good news. I'm like, do I have your permission to give your number to some guys that I think can help you? And he said, yes. So I kid you not, I get on the phone. He's down in Del Rey, Florida. It happens that another man who had like over 40 years of sobriety that I knew from my home group in the East Coast in Connecticut was 15 minutes away from my dad's condo in West Palm Beach. Like, go figure. And that's a God thing. And he's with an intervention specialist, an international intervention specialist. And they say, we can be at your dad's house in the next 24 hours. They get to him and they actually have to give him vodka because I guess he was going through such DTs and he was really sick. And I guess the reason I'm telling this story is that I saw then how sick like this disease can take people, and they're my blood. So I wasn't quite there yet, but that was like, wow, I believed I was going to end up. So the long and the short of it is he got to the rehab. They said, it's your choice, George. You want to go, we'll help you go home, pack some bags, come back. And he did. But in 24 hours, I guess he went into cardiac arrest. They had to send him to ICU. He ended up in ICU for 10 days. And then his best drinking buddies and his girlfriend checked him out and brought him home and were like, we like you, George, better when you're drinking. And again, I don't need to go into detail, but God's got a plan for each and every one of us. And we who are all here, like, we are so lucky. We're miracles, guys. And this program does work, but we've got to be willing to do the work. And we've got to be willing, just like Eric suggested, grab a sponsor, get this big book out. And there's no reason to wait. You don't have to wait 90 meetings in 90 days. You don't have to do a step a month. Like, you can get rocketed. I think Terry's taken people through the whole thing in like 3 days or less. I think, 2 weeks or less is what we're doing with our book study, because we're doing a chapter each session, and we try to keep it to an hour. But like, somebody else put their hand out and saved my life, and now my obligation, my responsibility, and my honor is to go help somebody else who's sick and suffering, who wants this. So the person that came to me and another person that's here on this screen, it's like, we're doing the steps. And I helped her older sister like 6 months ago. And she said, my sister's really struggling. And I just got to read for an hour today after choir rehearsal, after working at a football game. I did intensive work with other alcoholics for an hour with the gal that missed the session last night, so I could catch her up so we can go back with the group tomorrow. And that's just how it works, guys. It really is for fun and for free, because I know how I felt when, and she's on like day 10. Anybody here remember day 10? Like, how cool is it when we get to work with somebody else that reminds us of where we came from? Because I can't live on yesterday's sobriety. And no matter how much time we have, no matter whether we're recovered or not, it's like, I must carry this message to other alcoholics. I must. And so I'll get back to, after having just recovered in 2020 with BYOC in the group, 6 months later, I didn't follow directions. Right? I read all the way through page 164. I got recovered. And then one of my friends called me out, and she's like, so Piper, have you taken anyone through the steps yet? Are you doing step 12? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, have you taken anyone through the steps yet? And I'm like, no. I was 11 years sober, recovered now, and I never sponsored anybody. So was I living on page 62? Was I still selfish and self-centered? Yeah, I think so, right? I hadn't given away freely, even though I read, page 89 over and over and over again. What does it say? Intensive work with other alcoholics, right? That's what guarantees that we stay sober, right? That's like our insurance policy. And but I hadn't given it away. I had participated in other people's groups that I hadn't actually done it myself. And I said, well, how do you get a sponsee? What do you do? She's like, just pray about it. So back to my story. in recovery. Now we're in 2021, and I prayed about it. I have 2 major surgeries. And you know what? If I'm coming up to the time, feel free to give me a 5-minute warning. I'm praying about it. And why? This was all God. I brought my big book and my earbuds to the hospital and my glasses with me for the surgery. And I was only supposed to be there, I think, 2 nights. I ended up there 4 nights. But after I got out of surgery, I love Russell, by the way, Russell Spatz. If anybody goes to his workshop on Saturdays, like that was the kicker that pulled me in to be like really seeking God and to understand who my God is and what he says and what he promises us. And one of the things that Russ said that I heard that was just so game changing for me was we never apologize for God. Right? It says it in the book. Men of faith have courage, right? They follow their God. They seek their God. And it's about spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. So if I want to continue to grow in effectiveness and understanding and being able to help other people, because you guys help me, right? Get out of this disease and into the solution, I got to do this and keep growing and learning. And so I joined a Bible study, and that goes back to, I went to start singing in the choir at church, and I never knew that hymns, the old-fashioned hymns in church, were actually stuff out of the Bible that's in the big book. And the big book, it's like before they wrote it, the founders, Bill and Bob, right? The Oxford group, they were reading 1 Corinthians 13, the book of James, and Sermon on the Mount. And now when I look at all these pages in the big book and I see the scripture, it's just like singing to me. It's amazing. So like even page 19, it says, and there is a solution. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again. That's like right out of the Bible, right? So we, as recovered alcoholics, get to make the approach to those that aren't recovered yet and offer them a way out, right? We get to offer them a solution. And I mean, the chapter says there is a solution. And then it says, none of us make a sole vocation of this work, right? That the elimination a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lie before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. So going to the plug again for T, Terry and Roy were doing an intensive big book study where they were like dissecting, and I kept taking notes and I kept going to more after I was taken through the first time. And they could spend, like a whole session on just a couple of pages in the big book. And I loved it. I fell in love with the big book, and I just started learning more. So I just wanted to seek, but all of this is about like, how do I learn how to live? Because what is the problem of the alcoholic in our minds? I have a problem with living. I have trouble feeling comfortable living in my own skin. But when I'm plugged into God's power, right? It says there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. And then somebody like Scott Lee comes on and he says, where's God? God is right here, right now, in between the claps. I learn how to be present. I learn how to be present so I can show up for others. And when I'm thinking about others, I'm not thinking about me. Wow. Go figure, right? So even when chaos is happening, when there's calamity happening, maybe I still don't like where my bank account is or the scale or what my boss is saying or whatever. It's like, I don't focus on what's wrong or the problems or judging others. I'm learning how to love. I'm learning how to love everybody and meet them where they're at, because that's really what it's all about. And you do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. And yes, I am cuckoo, but I'll tell you what, like, I feel I'm a 60-year-old kid. I'm a 60-year-old kid with joy in my heart today. And I believe it's all because of God. I believe it's because he grabbed me. He grabbed me and he shook me up and he said, Piper, let's clean you up. Let's clean you out and go shine, girl. Go shine. And I'll just get back to 2 more things. The surgeries I had, right? So when I was in my disease, I don't have time to be sick. Who's got time to be sick? I didn't even have medical insurance, right? So finally I got a job, got put me in a job during sobriety where I had medical insurance and coverage, and the kids are out of the house, and now it's time that Piper can actually go to the doctor and get checked out. And what do? I find out my rotator cuff bicep, it's all shredded. Guys, for a year, I was picking up my arm to just lift my arm to turn over in bed at night. Like, that's how much pain I was willing to endure because I'm used to suffering, right? I was addicted to suffering in my disease, right? We're just, it's crazy. And then when I hit the deductible by finding out I needed shoulder surgery, we found out that I couldn't walk. I was running the bleachers up and down the football stadium like Rocky, right? Trying to lose the weight during the pandemic. And I come home and then my foot swelled up. I was like, this is weird. So I go to the orthopedic, and all of a sudden they tell me and they discover I've got a cyst in my ankle that has pushed away 30% of my bone. I've been walking around, working out, doing whatever I do without 30% of my ankle. So I have to get on a donor list. Tell me this is not all God. And all I can tell you is that fast forward, I was not allowed to walk for a year after the surgery. After, mind you, I told you I'm in the bed recovering from the surgery, and I'm taking people through the steps in the hospital bed. We have a whole family, BYOC, all over the world. And it's so amazing to be part of. And to see the light come on in their eyes, to see them get recovered, to see them get rocketed into this fourth dimension. And it's like a life of joy and peace and excitement and fun. And anyway, I guess what I was going to say is about I couldn't stand for a year. I had to let my body accept the bone, and God, thankfully, like, it all worked out. And a year ago, I was kind of finally strong enough to hold my body upright, but not standing for a whole year. Like, all those muscles atrophy, right? Now I'm like in my 50s and oh boy, this is so. Anyway, it had the patience, but I think God was just saying, Piper, be still. Trust me. It's all going to turn out for the good. And so last year, I started to be able to walk my 4 to 5 miles, but I needed to be on a smooth surface. I didn't feel stable on like gravel or something that was moving. But this year, guys, that path that I wasn't able to walk on, right? I can do now. I can do. And then my kids, who both are in Colorado, for my 60th birthday, instead of being alone, they're like, Mom, come celebrate. Will you please come out? And I was able to find a ticket, and I got out there, and I was able to hike in the Rocky Mountains with my kids for my 60th birthday. And that is all by the grace of God. So I just love you guys. Just do this thing. Get your big book, find a sponsor, come join our group. Anybody, we're all qualified here. Have fun with it. Get ready to trudge the road to happy destiny. And I love you here. Love you all. Thank you.
Piper, thank you so much.